My daughter-in-law shouted that I was a deadbeat, demanding I pay rent or find myself on the street. I'm Thomas Bennett, and at 70 years old, I believed I'd earned a shred of respect. For 4 years, I quietly endured Sarah's snarky remarks about my retired lifestyle. To her, I was a jobless burden, scraping by on government checks in her home. She had no inkling I'd been building something extraordinary, a $1.8 million portfolio, while she tallied every cent she thought I cost them. What began as a family discussion about my contributions spiraled into revelations that left our entire community stunned. While Sarah judged my worth by grocery lists and utility bills, I was carefully growing wealth through disciplined investments in blue-chip stocks and index funds. She never bothered to ask what I did during those quiet morning hours when she assumed I was just glued to the TV. If you're listening, please subscribe and let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me tell you how a woman who thought she held all the cards learned that quiet wealth runs deeper than loud demands. The disrespect didn't come out of nowhere. It built slowly, like water eroding stone over time. 4 years ago, when my wife Mary passed after a 10-year battle with Alzheimer's, I thought moving in with my son Michael and his wife Sarah would be temporary. Just until I found my footing again. I was grieving, exhausted. For over a decade, I'd been Mary's full-time caregiver, and honestly, I didn't know who I was without that role. Sarah seemed kind at first. "Take all the time you need." "Dad," she'd say warmly. But soon, I noticed the little digs, the eye rolls when I sat in my old leather recliner, flipping through the Wall Street Journal, the way she'd change the subject whenever I mentioned markets or investments. The first real clue came about 9 months after I moved in. I overheard her on the phone with her friend Emily. "Supporting aging in-laws is so expensive." She sighed, not knowing I was in the kitchen. "Thomas doesn't work, obviously. Lives off Social Security. It's like having a teenager who never leaves." My face burned, but I stayed silent. Maybe she was just stressed. The second sign was more blatant. During family talks about money things like Ethan's soccer gear, vacation plans, or house repairs, Sarah would turn her back to me. Literally. If I offered input, she'd dismiss it with, "Dad, this is about real money, adult finances," as if my $2.100 monthly Social Security check was pocket change. As if the 10 years I'd spent managing Mary's medical care, insurance battles, and medication schedules while she forgot how to speak had somehow dulled my mind. What Sarah didn't know was that those 10 years weren't lost. They were preparation. While she saw my financial reading as an old man's hobby, I was studying market trends. While she thought my quiet mornings meant depression or laziness, I was analyzing stock movements, building strategies. Caring for someone with Alzheimer's teaches you patience. You learn to observe without reacting. You learn to plan for the long haul because every day brings new challenges. Those skills translate remarkably well to investing. But Sarah never asked about my past. Never wondered why I stayed calm during money discussions or why Ethan came to me with questions about his savings account. She saw only what she wanted a burden. Over 4 years, the pattern became clear. If I mentioned a market trend article, she'd cut me off with talk of real-world concerns. When I offered to help with financial planning, she'd pat my arm like I was a confused child. "That's sweet, Dad. But Michael and I handle the grown-up stuff." I'd been making complex financial decisions since before she was born, but because I wasn't bringing home a paycheck, my experience meant nothing to her. The breaking point was coming. I felt it in every dismissive comment, every excluded conversation, every time she complained to others about the burden of supporting me. But I kept quiet. I watched. I planned. Because here's what I learned during Mary's illness sometimes. The people who underestimate you give you the greatest advantage. They stop paying attention to what you're really doing. And what I was doing, during those quiet morning hours while Sarah thought I was wasting time, was building something that made her $95,000 marketing salary look trivial. She was about to push me too far, and when she did, our whole community would see what real money looks like. By the spring of 2025, the tension in our house was palpable, thick enough to choke on. Sarah's demands were growing bolder, and I realized I faced a choice that would define the rest of my life. If I stayed silent and accepted her treatment, I'd lose everything that mattered. First, my relationship with Ethan, my 17-year-old grandson, the light of my life. Every Monday and Wednesday, he'd sit with me after school, and I'd teach him about compound interest, market fundamentals, the power of long-term thinking. "Grandpa," he'd say, "you make this stuff sound so simple. Mrs. Carter's economics class is dry, but you make it click." Sarah had started sniping at those sessions. "Dad, don't fill Ethan's head with get-rich-quick fantasies. He needs realistic goals." She was already planning to limit my time with him. I could see it coming. If she followed through on her threats of a nursing home, I'd be cut off from Ethan during his most formative years. Those Monday and Wednesday talks would stop. The college prep I'd been guiding him through would end. Worse, he'd grow up thinking his grandfather was just a burden, shuffled off when he became inconvenient. Second, my self-respect. I'd spent 47 years in financial services before retiring early to care for Mary. I'd helped dozens of families build wealth, navigate market crashes, secure their futures. To be dismissed as a clueless old man on handouts that cut deeper than Sarah could ever know. But the biggest stake was Ethan's future. Sarah had no idea what I'd been building during my retirement. She thought my frugal budgeting meant poverty. She assumed my simple lifestyle meant I had nothing. What she didn't know was that every dollar I didn't spend on myself went into investments for Ethan's future. The average cost of a 4-year college education was nearing $220,000. Sarah and Michael were saving, but at their pace, they'd cover maybe half. Their plan involved Ethan taking massive student loans, burdening him with debt for decades. I had a different plan. During Mary's illness, I'd learned to live on very little. My needs were simple, basic food, plain clothes, a warm place to sleep. Everything else went into investments. For 9 years, I'd been building Ethan's college fund through careful day trading and long-term placements. The math was working beautifully. Compound growth, dividend reinvestment. Strategic market moves, all the skills I'd honed over 47 years in finance were paying off. But if Sarah forced me into a nursing home, I'd lose the ability to manage those investments actively. Nursing home costs averaged $500 a month in our area. That would drain the very funds I'd been saving for Ethan. The timeline was critical. Ethan was a junior in high school. College applications were 18 months away. The money needed to be ready, substantial enough to cover tuition, room, board, and living expenses without loans. Sarah's ultimatum wasn't just about rent or family dynamics. It was about Ethan's entire future. Would he graduate debt-free, ready to build his own wealth, or start adult life owing $110,000 to loan companies? She thought she was teaching me a lesson about household contributions. She didn't realize I'd been contributing more than she could imagine, in ways that didn't show up on a monthly bank statement. The stakes couldn't be higher: Ethan's future, my dignity, our family's financial security. Sarah was about to force my hand, and when she did, everyone would learn just how much this freeloader had been contributing to our family's future. The first real confrontation came on a Monday evening in early May. I just finished helping Ethan with his economics homework at the kitchen table when Sarah walked in, arms crossed. "Dad, we need to talk," she said sharply. "Sure. What's on your mind?" "Money. Specifically, your contribution to this household." Ethan looked uneasy. "Mom, maybe I should go." "Stay," Sarah said firmly. "You're old enough to understand how families work." I kept my voice steady. "What exactly are you concerned about? Michael and I have been talking. You've been here 4 years, rent-free, eating our food, using our utilities. I buy groceries every week. I pay the gas bill. A few groceries and $75 don't cover your real costs." "Dad." Ethan shifted in his seat. "Mom, Grandpa helps with so much." Like what Sarah's tone had an edge, like she was winning an argument. "He helps with my math, fixes stuff around the house. Those aren't real contributions. Ethan, those are hobbies." I felt a tightness in my chest, but I stayed calm. "What would you consider a real contribution? $1,000 a month. That's fair market rate for a room and utilities. $1,000. Ethan's eyes widened. "Your grandfather gets Social Security. It's time he contributed like an adult." I looked at Ethan's confused face, then back at Sarah. "And if I can't pay $1,000, then we'll need to explore other options. Senior living facilities, assisted care, places designed for people in your situation." "My situation, Dad. You're unemployed. Your only income is government assistance. Michael and I are building our future. We can't support you forever." The word unemployed hung in the air like a slap. Ethan's voice was small. "But Grandpa knows about money. He taught me about compound interest." "And, Ethan, your grandfather reads financial magazines. That doesn't make him an expert. Real expertise requires actual work experience." I could have spoken up then, could have mentioned my 47 years at Carter and Sons Financial, could have shown my portfolio. Instead, I nodded slowly. "When do you need an answer?" "End of the month. That's 3 weeks." After Sarah left the kitchen, Ethan turned to me, eyes worried. "Grandpa, $1,000 is almost half your Social Security." "It is. That's not fair. You took care of Grandma for 10 years. You gave up your job for family." "Life isn't always fair, buddy. But you're not unemployed. You know more about money than anyone." I squeezed his shoulder. "Some people only see what they want to see." "Are you going to pay it?" I looked at this kid I loved more than life itself. Smart, curious, worried about his grandfather's dignity. He deserved better than watching his family tear itself apart over money. "Ethan, sometimes adults have to make tough choices. Whatever happens, know I love you." "Okay. Grandpa, you're scaring me." "Don't be scared. Everything will work out as it should." But inside, I was calculating. Sarah had drawn a line in the sand. She wanted to treat me like a tenant. Fine. But tenants have rights, and landlords have responsibilities. More importantly, she'd shown her true colors in front of Ethan. No more hiding behind fake concern or family duty. This was about money, plain and simple. She saw an old man taking up space, and she wanted him gone. What Sarah didn't realize was that she'd given me clarity. For 4 years, I'd hoped she'd eventually see my value to this family. I'd been patient, understanding, willing to overlook her comments. thinking she was just stressed. But tonight, calling me unemployed in front of my grandson, threatening nursing homes, dismissing Ethan's respect for my knowledge as childish fantasy, she'd crossed a line. As I watched Ethan struggle with the unfairness, I made my decision. Sarah wanted to play hardball. She wanted to reduce our relationship to dollars and cents. Perfect. Because dollars and cents were exactly what I'd been accumulating for 9 years. She thought she held all the power because she had a job while I collected Social Security. She was about to learn that power comes in many forms, and some are harder to see coming than others. The next few days felt different. Tension hung in the house like the air before a thunderstorm. Sarah had set her battle lines, but she'd also given me something valuable, a deadline. 3 weeks until her ultimatum expired. 3 weeks to decide. But I'd already decided. Now, I just had to prepare. Thursday morning, I sat in my recliner with my usual coffee and the Wall Street Journal. Sarah walked through the living room on her way to work. I caught her glance. That familiar look of disapproval. "Must be nice," she muttered, "having time to read while others work." I didn't respond, just kept reading. But Ethan, eating breakfast at the kitchen counter, looked up from his cereal. "Mom, Grandpa's not just reading. He's taking notes. Look at his papers." Sarah paused for a moment. I thought she might actually look, might notice the detailed charts I'd been updating, the stock analysis sheets, the portfolio trackers. But she just shook her head. Hobbies. Ethan. Retirement needs hobbies to pass the time. After she left, Ethan wandered over to my chair. He picked up one of my notebooks, the one tracking my daily trades. "Grandpa, what's this number 1.8 million? I closed the notebook gently. "Just tracking some hypothetical investments." "Buddy, math exercises to keep my mind sharp." "But these look real. Company names, dollar amounts." "Ethan, your mom's under a lot of stress. Let's not give her more to worry about." "Okay." He studied my face. Ethan was smart. Too smart sometimes. "Grandpa, are you really poor?" I looked at this kid who'd defended me for 4 years while his mother called me a burden. "Ethan, what did I teach you about assumptions in investing?" "Assumptions can kill your portfolio faster than any market crash." "Exactly. And what's the first rule of information in finance?" "Information is power, but only if you know when to use it." "Very good." I patted his shoulder. "Sometimes the most powerful position is the one nobody sees coming." He nodded slowly, but I could see the wheels turning in his head. Friday afternoon, something interesting happened. I was checking market updates on my phone when it rang. The caller ID showed James Peterson. James was a client, or rather, one of the wealthy families I'd been quietly advising for 6 years. He owned 5 car dealerships and had built a sizable portfolio based on my recommendations. "Thomas, I need your take on the tech sector rotation we discussed. My regular advisor's suggesting something totally different." "James, let me call you back in an hour. Not a great spot to talk specifics right now." "Sure thing." "Oh, and Thomas, my wife Laura was wondering if you'd speak at the Chamber of Commerce dinner next month about investment strategies for small business owners." "I'll think about it." After I hung up, I noticed Ethan in the doorway. He'd heard the whole call. "Grandpa, that man asked you about investments." "He did. But Mom says you don't know about real money. Your mom knows what she knows." "Ethan." "And Mr. Peterson owns those car lots downtown. The big ones." "He does." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Grandpa, you're not what you seem. Are you?" I smiled. "Ethan, In 3 weeks, you'll learn that very few people are exactly what they seem, including your grandfather. Is that good or bad? Depends entirely on whether you're underestimating someone or being underestimated. The seed was planted. Ethan was starting to see the bigger picture, and in just over 2 weeks, everyone else would too. Saturday, June 14th, Ethan's graduation party. We'd rented a tent for the backyard, space for 50 people, teachers, classmates, neighbors, extended family. Michael and Sarah went all out, catered food, decorations, the works. I was proud of Ethan. Honor roll, varsity soccer, accepted to 4 colleges. This kid had a bright future, and everyone came to celebrate. I was by the dessert table, chatting with Mrs. Thompson from next door, when I noticed Sarah gathering a group near the gift table. Teachers, some of Michael's co-workers, a few neighbors. "It's so challenging supporting multiple generations," she said, her voice carrying across the yard. "Some older family members don't grasp modern financial realities." Mrs. Thompson raised an eyebrow. "Talking about your father-in-law," Sarah glanced at me, making sure I heard. "Dad's a sweet man, but he's been living with us rent-free for 4 years. Michael and I have been patient, but we need him to contribute or make other arrangements." My chest tightened, but I kept my face neutral. Other arrangements. This from Mr. Wilson, Ethan's math teacher. "Well, there are lovely senior facilities for people on fixed incomes. Social Security, limited resources." I counted them. 27 people. 27 members of our community, listening to Sarah explain why her father-in-law was a burden. Mrs. Thompson looked uncomfortable. Thomas seemed sharp. "Surely there are ways." "Oh, he's bright enough," Sarah cut in. "Reads financial magazines. Gives Ethan investment advice. It's sweet. Really, like a hobby. But hobbies don't pay rent." That's when I saw Ethan's face. He was with his friends, but he'd heard everything. The confusion and hurt in his eyes cut like a knife. Sarah wasn't done. She'd found her audience and was performing. "The truth is, some people from Dad's generation don't understand that family support has limits. He's never worked in the modern economy. Never built a career like Michael and I have. Social Security was meant as supplemental income, not a retirement plan." "How much is enough?" This from Dr. Garcia, Ethan's guidance counselor. "We've asked for $1,000 a month. That's less than half his Social Security check. Completely reasonable for room and board." Mrs. Thompson shook her head. "That seems steep for family." Mrs. Thompson, with respect, you don't have elderly relatives living with you. The costs add up. Food, utilities, medical expenses. And there's the opportunity cost. We could rent that room to someone who actually contributes. I felt 27 pairs of eyes glancing my way. Some sympathetic, some curious, some uneasy with this public airing of family business. But Sarah kept going, building to her finale. "The bottom line is this: real men contribute. Real adults take responsibility. Dad reads about money, but he's never made money. There's a difference between fantasy and reality. Real men contribute." The same words she'd used in the kitchen, now delivered to teachers who'd known me for 4 years, to neighbors who'd seen me help with yard work and repairs, to Ethan's friends who'd watched me tutor him. Ethan stepped forward, his young voice shaking. "Mom, that's not fair. Grandpa knows more about money than Ethan." "Sweetheart, you don't understand adult finances yet. Your grandfather's knowledge comes from magazines and TV. Michael and I deal with real money, real investments, real planning." I could have stayed silent, could have let it pass, as I had so many times. But then I saw the tears starting in Ethan's eyes, the confusion on his face as his mother publicly humiliated the grandfather he respected and loved. That's when I made my choice. I walked slowly toward the group, phone in hand. 27 people turned to watch me approach. "Sarah," I said quietly, "you mentioned real money and real investments. Dad, this isn't the time. Actually, it's exactly the time." I looked around at the gathered faces. "Since you've made this a public conversation about my financial contributions to this family." Michael started. "Thomas." But I held up my hand. "Sarah's right about one thing. It's time for complete honesty about money in this family." I could see confusion in Sarah's eyes. This wasn't how she expected me to respond. "You said real men contribute. You're absolutely right. So let me show everyone what real contribution looks like." I opened my phone and pulled up my Fidelity app. "Ethan, come here, son." My grandson walked over, wiping his eyes. "Remember those math exercises we did? Those hypothetical portfolios?" "Yes, sir." Well, they weren't hypothetical. I turned the screen toward the group, and 27 people went silent. There, in clear black numbers, was an account balance that made Sarah's marketing salary look like pocket change $1,823,670. Ethan's mouth fell open. "Mrs. Thompson gasped. "Doctor." Garcia blinked, trying to process it. Sarah's face went pale as snow. That's not real," she whispered. "Oh, it's very real," I said softly. 9 years of careful investing, built during those quiet morning hours. And that's when James Peterson walked through the backyard gate. Thomas James's voice carried across the suddenly silent yard. "Sorry I'm late, buddy. Traffic was brutal on I-95. 27 faces turned toward the gate as James strolled in, wearing his usual weekend khakis and a polo with Peterson Auto Group embroidered on it. To most guests, he was just another neighbor. But recognition dawned on a few. James Peterson owned the 5 largest car dealerships in our county. "James," I said calmly, "glad you made it." He walked over, shook my hand warmly, and looked at the crowd. "Hope I'm not interrupting anything important." Sarah's voice was barely audible. You two know each other." James laughed. "Know each other? Thomas has been my investment advisor for 6 years. His guidance turned my business profits into a portfolio worth—" He caught himself, glancing at me. "Well, let's just say my retirement's secure thanks to Thomas's strategies." The silence in that backyard was deafening. "Mrs. Thompson spoke first. Investment advisor, one of the best," James continued, unaware of the tension he'd walked into. "Thomas doesn't advertise, doesn't have a fancy office downtown. But the wealthy families around here, we know who to call for real financial advice." Sarah's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "Actually," James said, pulling out his phone, "I wanted to run something by you. Thomas, that tech sector rotation we talked about last week, my official advisor's pushing back. But your track record speaks for itself. Mind if we step aside for a minute?" "Not at all." I looked at the stunned faces. "But first, let me share something with my family." I opened my phone again, pulling up a different account. Smaller numbers, but still substantial. "Ethan, come here, son." My grandson walked over, still shell-shocked from the last revelation. "This account has your name on it. It's been growing for 9 years. Ethan stared at the screen. $270,000. Your college fund, full tuition, room and board. plus living expenses for 4 years. No loans, no debt, no financial stress for you or your parents. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. Grandpa, you did this while living on Social Security. Social Security covers my basics. Ethan, everything else went into securing your future. James nodded approvingly. That's the kind of long-term thinking that makes Thomas such a valuable advisor. Delayed gratification, compound growth, strategic planning, classic wealth-building principles. Doctor? Garcia stepped forward. Mr. Bennett, if you don't mind, what was your background before retirement? 47 years at Carter & Sons Financial downtown. Senior financial analyst, then portfolio manager. I specialized in wealth preservation and growth for high net worth families. Carter & Sons Mrs. Wilson, Ethan's English teacher, looked impressed. My uncle worked there. Said they only hired the best. Sarah finally found her voice. But you've been living so simply. The used car, the plain clothes, the frugality. That's the foundation of wealth building, I said quietly. I learned to live on little so everything else could compound over time. James chimed in. Thomas taught me that. Live like you're poor when you're rich, and you'll stay rich. Best advice I ever got. Ethan studied his college fund balance with wonder. Grandpa, when Mom said you didn't contribute to the family, oh, but I do contribute, I said, looking at Sarah. I've been contributing $2,800 a month to this family's future. It just wasn't visible on the monthly electric bill. The math hit Sarah like a punch. $2,800 a month. Average monthly investment over 9 years. Some months more, some less, depending on markets. But roughly $33,600 a year that could have gone to rent or luxuries, but instead secured Ethan's education and our family's stability. James looked around at the stunned faces. Did I miss something? Is there a problem with Thomas's arrangements here, Mrs.? Thompson spoke up. Sarah was just explaining that Thomas needs to pay rent or move to a senior facility. $1,000 a month. James's eyebrows shot up. $1,000 for the man building wealth for this family while living like a monk. That's... He shook his head. Sarah, you might want to reconsider that. But he's unemployed, Sarah said weakly. Lives on Social Security. By choice, James said firmly. Thomas could work for me tomorrow. Managing my dealership portfolios. 6-figure salary. Easy. But he prefers the independence of private consulting. Some of the most successful people I know are his clients. I watched Sarah's worldview crumble in real time. 4 years of assumptions shattered by 5 minutes of truth. Ethan tugged my sleeve. Grandpa, does this mean you're not poor? No. Buddy, I'm not poor. I'm just careful with money. And you're not unemployed. I work every day. Ethan, just not in an office with set hours. And you built my college fund, while Mom thought you were doing nothing. I built it because she thought I was doing nothing. It gave me freedom to focus on long-term growth without worrying about monthly expenses. James clapped my shoulder. Ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at one of the sharpest financial minds in this county. Quiet, humble, and brilliant with money. Sarah looked at the 27 faces staring at her. Some sympathetic, some confused, some judging her for how she'd treated me. I didn't know, she whispered. You didn't ask, I said simply. You made assumptions. In finance, assumptions can destroy you. Ethan looked at me with new understanding. That's why you always told me assumptions are dangerous. That's right, son. That's why we verify information before making big decisions. The power dynamic in our family shifted completely. and everyone could see it. The party continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Small groups whispered about what they'd witnessed. Ethan stayed close, still processing the college fund revelation. Sarah retreated to the house, claiming she needed to check the food. James and I found a quiet corner by the garden. Thomas, I hate to bring up business at a family event, but that pharmaceutical stock you recommended my accountant's nervous about the volatility. Earnings report drops Tuesday. I expect a 14% jump by Friday. Hold the position. You sure? I'm sure. As we talked, I noticed people listening, not eavesdropping, but paying attention to our conversation in a way they never had before. Mrs. Thompson stood close enough to hear James ask about my municipal bond strategy and my advice on diversifying across 4 sectors. After James left, Ethan approached with determined eyes. Grandpa, I need to ask you something directly. Shoot. Are you rich? I looked at this kid who'd defended me for 4 years while his mother called me a burden. He deserved honesty. By most standards, yes, I'm financially secure. How secure? Secure enough that your parents won't need to worry about money if they make smart choices. Secure enough that you'll graduate college debt-free. Secure enough that I can live independently wherever I choose. That last part hit him. Wherever you choose. Ethan, your mom gave me an ultimatum. Pay rent or find somewhere else to live. She's right that it's time for me to decide. Fear flashed in his eyes. You're leaving. I'm considering my options. Come sit with me. We sat on the porch steps as the party buzzed around us. I pulled out my phone and showed him a real estate app. I've been looking at properties. There's a nice townhouse across town. 2 bedrooms, small yard, near the community college where you'll start your first 2 years. But why move out now? Now that Mom knows you're not poor Ethan. Respect isn't something you can force. Your mom's made it clear how she sees me. That won't change just because she knows about my bank account. But the college fund, the investments, everything you've done for our family, I did those things because I love you and your dad. Not because I expected gratitude or recognition. He was quiet for a moment. Will I still see you if you move? Every Monday and Wednesday, just like always. Plus weekends when you want. And Ethan, that college fund isn't going anywhere. Neither is my commitment to your future. What about Dad? Does he know? I glanced through the kitchen window, where Michael and Sarah were having what looked like a heated talk. Your dad's about to learn a lot about money, respect, and what real contribution means, as if summoned. Michael appeared on the porch. His face was pale, a mix of shame and confusion. Dad, can we talk? Ethan stood. I'll give you guys some privacy. Michael sat heavily beside me. For a long moment, we watched the guests mingle in our backyard. Sarah told me what she said about paying rent. She did. And what she said tonight, in front of everyone. I was there. Dad, I'm sorry. I should have stopped it. Should have defended you. Michael, you're 38 years old. You shouldn't need to defend your father against your wife. You should have married someone who respects your family. He flinched like I'd hit him. She didn't know about your finances, your background, any of it. She didn't ask. 4 years. Son. She never once asked about my career, my experience, my capabilities. She saw what she wanted to see. But now that she knows what? That I have money, Michael. Do you think that's what this is about? He looked confused. Isn't it, son? This is about respect, about dignity, about how you treat family when you think they can't fight back. I pulled out my phone and showed him the real estate app. I'm buying a place across town, moving out by the end of the month. Dad, no, you don't have to do that. Sarah understands now. She feels terrible. She feels terrible because she got caught, because she embarrassed herself in front of 27 people. That's not the same as understanding why she was wrong. Michael stared at the townhouse listing. But this is your home, your family. Michael, family isn't about sharing an address. It's about mutual respect, support, and love. I've given all three for 4 years. Your wife's given me contempt and ultimatums. She'll change. She's already talking about apologizing, making it up to you. I'm sure she is. And I hope she does, for Ethan's sake and yours. But I won't be here to see it. What about Ethan's college fund? The investment's Ethan's future is secure. That doesn't change whether I live here or across town. The money was never about Sarah's approval. Michael looked like he might cry. Dad, I feel like I'm losing my family. You're not losing anything, son. You're gaining clarity. For 4 years, you've watched your wife treat your father like a burden, and you stayed silent. That tells me everything about your marriage. I was trying to keep the peace. Peace isn't the absence of conflict. Michael, peace is the presence of respect. Your wife never respected me, and you enabled it by staying quiet. Through the window, I saw Sarah watching us, her face anxious. She wants to talk to you. Michael said, to apologize. I'm sure she does, but some things can't be unsaid. Some humiliations can't be undone. I stood and looked at my son, the man I'd raised, who'd let his wife shame his father because it was easier than confrontation. The house showing is Tuesday at 11. I'll probably make an offer that afternoon. Dad, please give her a chance to make this right. Son, I am making this right. I'm removing myself from a place where I'm not wanted or respected. That's not punishment. That's dignity. I walked back to the party, leaving Michael alone on the porch. Ethan found me by the dessert table. Grandpa, are you really moving out? I am. Buddy, because of what Mom said, because it's time. Ethan, you're off to college in 2 years. Your parents need to learn to be a family without me here, and I need to live where I'm valued for who I am, not what I contribute financially. But you'll still help with college applications and financial planning, every step of the way. That's a promise. Mrs. Thompson approached. Thomas, I couldn't help overhearing. Are you really looking for a new place? I am. My nephew David is a realtor, specializes in properties for discerning buyers. I can give you his card. I'd appreciate that. And Thomas, what Sarah said tonight was completely out of line. You've been nothing but gracious to this family. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. That means a lot. As the party wound down, guests started leaving, and I noticed something curious. Several people approached to shake my hand, offer contact info. Dr. Garcia asked about investment advice for his daughter's college fund. Mr. Wilson mentioned needing help with retirement planning. Word spreads fast in small towns. By Monday, half the neighborhood would know the quiet man reading financial papers wasn't just passing time, he was managing serious wealth. Sarah's public attempt to shame me had backfired spectacularly. Instead of lowering my status, it revealed my true position in a way I couldn't have orchestrated myself. Sometimes, the best revenge is letting people see the truth. Monday morning brought the first consequences. I was in my recliner, reading the Wall Street Journal, checking my portfolio. When my phone rang, it was David Thompson, Mrs. Thompson's nephew, the realtor, Mr. Bennett. My aunt gave me your number. Said you're interested in properties. I am. I've got 3 townhouses that might suit you. Great neighborhoods, close to the community college. Move-in ready. When can you view them? This afternoon works, after I hung up. Michael emerged from the kitchen with coffee, looking like he hadn't slept. Dad, was that about houses? It was, you're really doing this. I told you I was. Sarah appeared in the doorway, still in her bathrobe, looking rough. Red eyes, pale skin, the picture of defeat. Dad, can we talk? Please, I set down my paper. What would you like to discuss? Saturday night. What I said. How I said it. She stepped into the living room, sitting on the couch's edge. I was completely wrong about everything. Your contributions, your background, your value to this family. Okay, I want to apologize sincerely and ask you to reconsider moving out. I studied her face. She looked genuinely remorseful, but I'd learned to be wary of assumptions. Sarah, what exactly are you apologizing for? For calling you unemployed, for saying you don't contribute, for threatening nursing homes, for embarrassing you in front of our friends and neighbors. She looked confused. And you missed something important. Michael spoke from the doorway. She's trying to apologize. Dad, I know what she's trying to do, but an incomplete apology isn't worth much. Sarah's brow furrowed. What did I miss? You apologized for Saturday night, but that wasn't the start of this pattern. For 4 years, you've treated me with contempt, dismissed my knowledge, excluded me from decisions, made it clear you saw me as a burden. But I didn't know. Sarah, you didn't know because you didn't want to know. I've lived in your house for 4 years. Did you ever ask about my background, my career, my qualifications? She was silent. When Ethan told you I was teaching him about investments, did you ever wonder why he was learning so much? When you saw me reading financial journals every morning, did you ever ask why I assumed? You assumed I was a useless old man on government handouts. That assumption shaped how you treated me every single day for 4 years. Michael stepped into the room. Dad, she's trying to make amends. No, Michael. She's trying to undo the embarrassment she caused herself Saturday night. There's a difference. My phone rang again. James Peterson. Thomas. Sorry to call so early, but I've got Susan Carter on the other line. You know Susan, she owns those boutiques downtown. Heard about your situation. Wants to know if you'd manage her investment portfolio. Her current advisor's underperforming. I glanced at Sarah, whose eyes widened. James, I'll call you back this afternoon. I'm house hunting today. House hunting Thomas. What's going on? Time for a change of scenery. I'll explain later. After I hung up. Sarah looked stricken. People are calling you for business. Word travels fast in small communities. But that means people think I was wrong to ask you to leave. Sarah, people think you publicly humiliated a man who's been quietly managing wealth for some of the most successful families in this county. They're not wrong. Michael sat across from me. Dad, how many families do you advise now? 9. James Peterson, Susan Carter, the Garcia family, Dr. Patel, who owns the medical practice, retired Judge Hamilton, the O'Connor family with the construction business, and Emily Rogers, who inherited her husband's insurance firm. Sarah's mouth fell open. Those are some of the wealthiest people in town. Yes, they are. And by Wednesday, they'll all know my own family didn't think I deserved basic respect. Oh, God, Sarah whispered. What have I done? You've shown your true character. The question is whether you're sorry you revealed it or sorry you had it to reveal in the first place. My phone buzzed with the text. I glanced at it and smiled. "What is it?" Michael asked. "Ethan. He's at school, but 3 teachers asked about his grandfather this morning. Doctor. Garcia's been telling people about the college fund." Sarah put her head in her hands. "Everyone's going to know how I treated you. They already know." Sarah. 27 people witnessed it Saturday night. But my job, my reputation, what if work finds out? And there it was, her real concern. Not that she'd hurt me or damaged our family. She was worried about her professional image. Michael looked at his wife with an expression I'd never seen before, disappointment mixed with disgust. "Sarah," he said quietly, "are you more upset about what you did to my father or how it makes you look?" She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. Her priorities were clear on her face. My phone rang again. "Doctor, Garcia, Thomas, hope you don't mind me calling. I want to thank you for what you've done for Ethan. That college fund, it's incredible. And I'd like to ask if you have time to discuss my daughter's education planning. She's a sophomore, and my current advisor doesn't have your track record. I'd be happy to help. Carlos, let me get settled in my new place, and I'll call you back." "New place you're moving, yes. A townhouse across town. Looking today. Thomas, if I may say, your family would be crazy to let you go." After I hung up, I looked at Michael and Sarah. "Doctor. Garcia sends his regards." The weight of what Sarah had cost this family was sinking in. Not just my presence in their home, but my connections, my expertise, my quiet influence in their community. "Dad," Michael said slowly, "how much business could you bring to our family through your connections, Michael?" "I've been bringing business to this family for 4 years, just quietly. James Peterson bought his last 3 cars from Wilson Motors because I mentioned you worked there. Susan Carter used your landscaping company for her store renovations because I suggested it. Doctor. Garcia referred 5 clients to Sarah's marketing firm because I told him she was capable." Sarah's face went white. "You've been helping our careers. Family takes care of family." Sarah. Even when family doesn't notice or appreciate it. The full scope of her mistake hit her. She hadn't just insulted a harmless old man. She'd alienated a connected, respected member of their community who'd been working behind the scenes for their benefit for years. And now that was ending. Because respect, once lost, is hard to earn back. Tuesday afternoon, I signed the papers on a beautiful 2-bedroom townhouse on Cedar Lane. Hardwood floors, modern kitchen, a small garden in the back, move-in ready, as David Thompson promised. Wednesday morning, I was packing my belongings when Ethan knocked on my door. "Grandpa, can I help?" "Of course, buddy. Grab those books from the shelf." As we packed, Ethan was unusually quiet. Finally, he spoke. "Are you disappointed in us, in Mom and Dad?" I stopped folding clothes and looked at him. "Ethan, I'm not disappointed in you. You defended me when your mom was unfair. You recognized my knowledge when she dismissed it. You showed respect and love, even when it was hard. But what about them? Your parents are adults. They make their own choices and live with the consequences. I can't be disappointed in people for being who they choose to be. Mom's been crying a lot. Keeps saying she didn't know. Ignorance isn't the same as innocence. Ethan, your mom didn't know because she didn't want to know. There's a difference." He nodded slowly. "Grandpa, will you still teach me about money investing? Compound interest, all that. Every Monday and Wednesday, just like always. That's a promise. And you'll help with college applications. Every step. Financial planning. Essays. Choosing the right school, everything. And the college fund? It's really mine, it's really yours. Plus whatever it grows to over the next 2 years. By the time you graduate high school, it'll likely be close to $320,000 for education expenses. His eyes widened. That much? Compound interest is powerful, buddy, especially when you start early and stay consistent. As we carried boxes to my car, I noticed Michael watching from the kitchen window. He looked lost, like he was grappling with how his family fell apart so fast. Sarah emerged as I loaded the last box. Dad, please, one more time. Can we try again? I promise things will be different. I turned to face her. Sarah, what would be different? I'd treat you with respect. I'd ask about your background, your expertise. I'd value your contributions. Because now you know I have money. No. Because I know I was wrong. You were wrong 4 years ago. You were wrong 3 years ago. You were wrong last month. The only thing that's changed is getting caught publicly. She started crying again. Please don't leave us. Don't take your connections, your knowledge, your influence away from this family. And there was the truth. She wasn't sorry for how she treated me. She was sorry for losing access to what I could provide. Sarah, respect isn't transactional. You can't withdraw it for 4 years and then make a deposit when you need the balance. Ethan hugged me goodbye. See you Wednesday. Wednesday at 4. Just like always. Michael finally came outside. Dad, I know I can't undo the last 4 years, but I want you to know I see it now. How wrong this was. How wrong I was to let it happen. Michael, the good news is, you're only 38. You have time to learn from this. Time to decide what kind of husband and father you want to be. What do you mean you can choose to be a man who protects his family's dignity, or one who sacrifices it for domestic peace? That's up to you. He nodded slowly. I choose dignity. Good. Make sure your actions match that choice. As I drove away from the house I'd lived in for 4 years, I felt something unexpected relief. Relief that I no longer had to pretend Sarah's disrespect didn't hurt. Relief that I could live where I was valued for who I am, not tolerated as family. Relief that Ethan would see his grandfather stand up for himself rather than accept mistreatment. My new townhouse felt like freedom. No more walking on eggshells. No more swallowing pride for family harmony. No more watching Ethan struggle with the tension of loving his grandfather while keeping peace with his mother. That evening, I got a call from Mrs. Thompson. Thomas, I hope you're settling in well. I want you to know the neighborhood thinks Sarah was completely out of line. Thank you, Margaret. I appreciate that. There's something else. My book club meets Thursday afternoons. We were wondering if you'd consider talking to us about financial planning for retirees. Several ladies are struggling with investment decisions. I smiled. I'd be happy to help. Wonderful. And Thomas, this community is lucky to have you. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. After I hung up, I sat in my new living room, thinking about the lesson in all this. Respect yourself enough to walk away from those who don't value you. Age doesn't mean you must accept mistreatment. Family doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to stay where you're not wanted. And sometimes, walking away with dignity teaches better lessons than staying and fighting ever could. I opened my laptop and started replying to messages from potential new clients. After all, I had work to do. If you're listening, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done in my situation? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.